The Greeks, way back in 534 BC, were the first ones to come up with the idea of a tragedy, a story centered around the tragic hero who does everything in his power, who lives his purpose, but he still gets screwed over by fate and the gods. And this is still a very deeply resonating story. The question is, why does this story resonate with humans so much? Why are we so attracted to the tragic hero? Why does the tragic hero seem so familiar? The hero who lives their purpose, who does everything they're supposed to do, yet still comes up short. It's not their fault. One idea, way back in the ideas of the Greek tragedy, is that we are really not individuals. We are not here to live lives as best as we can for our own purposes. We are part of a bigger politic, a bigger group, a bigger society, and that's the more important thing. That was one of the kind of subtle ideas baked into the cake of the Greek tragedies. But where does this idea come from? Why does this feel so normal? Why does this resonate so much? Why does this feel so compelling? Why do we see ourselves projected into the tragic hero? Well, it all goes back to evolutionary psychology and the Pareto distribution. According to a lot of anthropologists and biologists, most mammals live in a Pareto distribution. Not everybody gets a chance to have sex. Only the top 10 or 20% of society get a chance to have sex. And this is a very efficient way for Mother Nature to organize societies of not just humans, but animals. If every human or every animal got to have sex, then the next generation would be made by the average survival skills of the previous generation. But if we live in a Pareto distribution, if only the top 20% based on survival skills, if only the top 20% gets to reproduce, then the next generation will be made by the winners of the survivor contest of the previous generation, which means there will always be an upward pressure on survival skills. And if you compare two groups, this group that lives in a Pareto distribution where only the top 20% get to reproduce versus this group where everybody gets to reproduce, this group will outpopulate this group. Because this group, every single generation, they'll get a little bit better as respect to survival skills. And humans are the same. But we have this idea in our head that we all are going to be in that top 20%, because if you do another split test, if you have two groups of humans, and this group, the people that are in the 80% that will never make it to the top 20%, yet they have this belief, a false belief, an irrational belief that they will one day get to that top 20%. This tribe of people will survive at a much higher rate than this tribe if everybody recognizes, or the bottom 80% of people recognize, that I probably won't get into the top 20% because they won't try as hard. But this group of people that have this false belief that I'm going to be in that top 20% one day, I'm going to be somebody someday, this tribe will try harder because they all believe they're going to get in that top 20%, and they will out-replicate this tribe. And this is who we descended from. We all have this belief that we are going to one day get into the top of society, that if we only grind our purpose every single day, we will get into that top 20% of society. But this is an irrational belief, because most people will not get into the top 20% of society. This is the basis of the tragedy, of the tragic hero. We all have this purpose. We all have this feeling that we have this great purpose. And this great purpose is going to compel us to do things to get into the top 20% of society, so we will be recognized for our greatness. So we will be recognized for our hierarchical dominance. But for most people, it will never happen. This is the tragic hero. We have this feeling that we're supposed to do something great, but we never really get there. That's why Mother Nature built in a backup plan. And the backup plan is this feeling, this idea, this common idea from philosophy that goes all the way back to antiquity, is that the road is better than the end. That life is not really about getting to that top 20%. Life is really about believing that you're on the path to that top 20%, whether you get there or not, and just grinding day after day, because the daily grind on the path that you think might get you into the top 20%, that daily grind is where life happens. But it's still baked into the cake. It's still the idea that the tragedy of life is we will never really get there. We'll always be going, but we'll never really get there. And this is the evolutionary basis, the biological basis, the anthropological basis of the Greek tragedy and the tragic hero. Because we all are, in a sense, a tragic hero. We all believe that we're better than average. We all believe that we're going to get to the top of society, but most of us never will. And the consolation prize is that the road is better than the end. That life happens when you're on the path to maybe the top, maybe not. If you quit life, then you are destined for frustration. If you quit life, you'll never make any money. You'll never have a loving relationship. You'll never be remembered by history. But if you embrace the daily grind, whether you get to the top or not, you can make more money. You can improve your relationship skills. You can improve your communication skills. And so long as you're on the daily path getting better and better, it doesn't really matter if you make it to the top or not, but you embrace that life happens on the grind towards a better and better life. That's the message for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.